this is a tipping point, and we are seeing seismic change happening across customer experiences with respect to AI. One key stat which we are seeing is slowly and steadily the SEO traffic has been going down, and it is widely advised, and it's a Gartner study which we are calling this out, that in the next 2 years, by 2028, the GEO traffic which is coming in from all your conversational applications like the Chat GPTs, Perplexities or the Geminis will actually take over the organic traffic which we see today from Google. What we've been hearing from our enterprises that while this number is in single digits today, which are directly coming, it's almost 1/3 that number where people are actually researching and then organically coming onto your websites and apps. Along with that, almost 2/3 of the enterprises have called out that they are seeing productivity gains and significant value in terms of productivity gains by leveraging AI out there. So this was on the customer front, but if I just talk about internally, and we had Anil talking about the cost pressures, and I can bet you that everyone who's sitting out here has heard about cost reduction in terms of their enterprises, or if you're talking to any of your organizations. At the same time, there's a study from Gartner which says that they are looking at growth, and what CEOs and all CXOs mandate has been, how do you really get that growth? So they are pivoting on two things. One of them being customer experience and the other being cost reduction. With that in mind, what AI really is doing is, it is making, in terms of how you drive marketing, how you drive customer experiences, we have to look at reinventing this. And that's where these three pillars in terms of creativity, it's not just about the quantum of creatives which need to be more, but the speed at which they are delivered, and also being on brand. With AI generating a lot of these things, are they really on brand or not? How consistent are they in terms of the brand tonality becomes equally important. As well, in terms of, we talked about in the panel just now that whether it's have organizations reach a maturity of hyper-personalization, personalization to the level of 1 or not, that is where those experiences comes in. And as a customer, they are expecting brands to be aware about their intents and deliver them as personalized experiences as possible. And at the same time, there is so much data in different systems internally as well, that for enterprises and the practitioners to start using it in terms of how they leverage those insights and how also they communicate. So, and what you see here is a toolkit which Adobe has built with our legacy of innovation and creativity and technology over the last years. And what I'd like to focus on is the foundation, which is what we are calling as the Adobe AI platform. First and foremost, it is grounded in what we call as enterprise data. We were talking about silos and so on, but with every enterprise which is using Adobe solutions today, there is a certain level of data which we are leveraging, they have ingested in our platforms. Along with that, there is a lot of content in terms of what is the creatives which need to be sent, what are the brand guidelines, what are the brand tonality, the brand communications, all of those become another set. And finally, in terms of any and every other knowledge base which is helpful in delivering a customer experiences is also accessible. That forms your foundational layer. On top of that is where you then bring in your different customer experience models. And this is where it is not just limited to Adobe. When we are saying customer experience AI models, there are models which Adobe is providing in the field of creativity, whether it is image generation, video generation, animation, and so on. But there are also third-party models which the customer may be building in, or you're leveraging from any other partner, whether it's the Claudes of the world, or the GPTs, or Geminis of the world. That's where those customer experience model comes as the second layer. And once we have streamlined these two, is when you are able to build purpose-built agents on top of it and have an orchestration layer. And I'll talk about that in my coming slides as well. But what this foundation really helps us do is on these pillars of reinventing your CX with AI infused into it, we are able to infuse in our existing applications which have been there for last so many years. We are bringing in AI infused capabilities through agents in those existing applications, and along with them we are launching new AI based applications altogether which can be leveraged in those interactions and delivering those customer experiences. So this is a toolkit, and a lot of providers are giving those AI-based solution. But what really differentiates or sets an enterprise AI-led solution apart is being responsible, is being safe and secure. And I just want to talk and touch upon it because this is extremely important in terms of how enterprises look at it today. When I say responsible, the way AI is exploding and how content and experiences are getting created, it's highly important that there is something who's responsibly looking at it, and that's where Adobe has put in an AI ethics principle board, which looks at not just the development but actually the entire life cycle in terms of how the testing is happening for those models, how the development is happening, how the processes are, how the testing is happening, and there is an oversight in terms of an ethics body governing that. Along with that, in terms of security, we have the DPDP Act coming in. There are many more specific security standards and stringent guidelines with each industry that even becomes even more stringent. So how do you have a platform which complies with all of those different security guidelines and regulations become equally important for an enterprise? At the same time, it is being about safe. And when I say safe, commercially safe, that AI is scraping the internet and taking so much content and generating so much stuff that a lot of times they're actually looking at proprietary images or proprietary content, and this could be really challenged. So how do you be commercially safe and provide full indemnification of the content which that AI is generating is very, very important to each and every enterprise. There was actually one of an FSI player who came to us. They were using some other solution in terms of content generation, and they were doing it for months. One fine day they realized that one of the images which are generated by that solution actually had some license data of some other organization. So that is when they came to us and they had to pay an hefty fine that we are looking at Adobe for this now because we want to be commercially safe. That becomes our priority number one when we are looking at agentic AI and so on. So that, and finally and foremost, what human centered, there should always be a human oversight, whether it's in terms of workflows, whether it is in terms of approvals, has to be there in terms of really bringing out what humans do best in terms of creativity, and let AI do the automated repetitive tasks. With that in mind, what I really want to double down on is the second pillar of experiences. And when we talk about that, three key pillars of personalization at scale, they've always been there. It has nothing to do with AI. We had data, we had content, and we had the journeys. Those pillars have always been there from a customer experience standpoint. How AI is changing or shaping them now is how well do you infuse those elements of AI, agentic AI to be precise, in each of these pillars. And in that aspect, I want to talk about the Adobe Experience Agent Orchestrator. What we have done here is, let's be honest, no one partner can solve for the agentic requirements, and customer experience can be on any surface, any any channel, and it need not be digital. Customer experience could even be if I walk into a store, retail store, or if I'm walking into a branch or I'm getting a call at the call center, that's also customer experience being orchestrated. So in that aspect, what we have done as Adobe, we have built a framework where any of the Adobe agents which are there, which has certain intelligence bases the data which it has access to, can answer or address a particular question which is there, or with interoperability coming in, and like the whole discussion on panel, there was a huge discussion on data silos that have existed over time. They will continue to exist. How we navigate them with interoperability and talking to other agents with the frameworks like MCP, A2A, and so on, in a workflow-based manner, which is not developer-friendly, but as business people, as marketers, you can create those workflows and get the relevant experience you want to deliver. That's really where this orchestrator stands out in terms of answering what is right and getting the relevant context to address any experience question or objective which is out there. And on top of it, what we are trying to do is, for all our existing applications, we are infusing AI in it by building purpose-built agents. And when I say purpose-built, that's extremely important, and I'll talk to you about it in my next slide. In terms of customer experience or marketing, this is how the whole marketing life cycle looks like. Right from planning, when I'm planning a new campaign or a new ad, I decide what is my creative brief, what is my media brief. Then I decide whom I want to target in terms of my audience management. Once that is done and my different personas are created, then I go on talking about, what is the content I want to personalize and start creating those content. Then I decide, once my target audiences and personas are defined, my content for them is defined, then I talk about in terms of how am I going to deliver it on which all channels. And then, how do I continuously optimize that experience when I'm delivering to them on those channels and analyzing them, and this feedback loop is completed. So this is the typical customer life cycle. What we as Adobe are doing today is for each of these different life cycle stages, we are building certain agents in each category as part of our existing solutions. And I'll let just this slide build out. This is what have been there for the years. Now we have some predictive AI capabilities where you are predicting certain audiences as well. But we are taking it a step further in terms of you can, in a natural language processing, ask a question that, for example, from an FSI perspective, I have my current credit card users. Can you suggest me an audience who are coming on my website who are similar to these people and create an audience? So you're just asking a requirement, you're given your business objective, and the AI will actually generate an audience which is relevant for this particular query. That's where audience management comes in. Similarly, in terms of content production, how you're scaling your content, the variations, the different languages and so on is another agent which is coming in. I can go on and talking about each and every agent. That's a session for another day. So what I'll do is I'll just focus on one of the agents and talk about is data insights. Everyone here today, does some kind of analysis and gets insight, in terms of whether it's dashboard, visualizations or report. Typically, we rely a lot on our analyst or the business intelligence teams to get us those reports. And what does we do as businesses or marketers? We go and ask them questions that can you provide me data of how my campaign did in the last 1 month, which all channels contributed to it, how does it perform, in terms of doing that compared to previous year when my campaign was not running. So such kind of questions which are there, rather than having the whole lengthy process of raising a request with your analyst teams, them taking out the data, then running some queries, or if you have a digital analytics solution, someone building out those dashboards and then giving you some insight, and then you take some more time to action on it. You have the data insights agent, which can, through natural language processing, just like you're asking questions in any conversational chat today, you can ask those questions that, what were my online and in-store revenues, and can you compare them with last week? So this really helps in democratizing the data and insights so that, your analyst can focus on the most strategic things, and the simple questions or the reports or visualizations which you need to make can be done by anyone and everyone in the enterprise. And what it also does is it never misses a beat. So if there's a pattern, if there's a trend, if there's an anomaly, it will be able to point out that, hey, I'm seeing this anomaly happening on this data you're looking at. Maybe you want to do something about it and take that action. So it really becomes fast, not just in insights, but also in the actions we are doing today. And that's just one agent. Imagine this across the customer lifecycle with all agents working together. That's really where we are seeing, a lot of success. And one key aspect, we talked about the technology, we talked about the agents, we talked about the orchestrator. We are building this not just for, one kind of persona. If you see a lot of AI solutions today in the market, they're very developer heavy in terms of, how they are being built for, and the engineers and the AI prompt engineers are really looking into it. But as Adobe, we are firstly building this for practitioners. So people who currently uses those Adobe solutions, they are able to leverage these agents so that their work becomes faster and more agile, and they are using it in their day-to-day work for better productivity. Along with that, there are AI-based applications which are on your websites, on your apps, so that when a customer comes and engages with your brand, we are directly leveraging AI to personalize that experience to the extent and the context you want it to be. And third is, the ecosystem and developers. This is a great example of orchestrator, and we have already launched one of our Adobe marketing agents with Microsoft Copilot. So how many of you guys use a Microsoft PowerPoint or Word today, and you see, for images you can get Adobe Express and click on that? That's actually this orchestrator working in the back end, integrating with all the intelligence Adobe solutions have and connecting it with Microsoft today. So the possibilities are endless in terms of, how each and everyone in the enterprise can start using these agents. And we had a whole panel discussion in terms of the merits, demerits of AI, and has it really started seeing success? These are some live examples in terms of, and these are just a handful of success stories we have seen over the globe in terms of how AI is already succeeding. And I'd like to talk about a couple of them. Purely in terms of increased incremental revenues is Coca-Cola. This is a project they started first with their Latin America market in Brazil, that for my e-commerce deliveries, how can I make those experiences much more personalized through WhatsApp, through emails, through nudges on paid media. And what they saw was an increased revenue of 36% through those personalized customer journeys, which is great at the scale of Coca-Cola doing it globally. At the same time, that was on increased revenue. If I take an example of cost reduction, and there was a debate, whether it is cost reduction or efficiencies. But what we have seen with Hershey's, on their website, if they wanted to optimize something, they would actually, analyze, look at what are the issues, from a technical standpoint, from a functional standpoint. And typical process goes, I would raise this as a request, in one of my workflow solutions like Jira. This will go to the product and the engineering team who will assess that, then it goes in the development cycle, and finally it is productionized. So that whole time period is cut short now with AI coming in, which is able to auto identify some of these opportunities and changes and optimizations which need to be done. It is auto suggesting some of these, and then it is even auto deploying those suggestions so that you cut short that whole development life cycle. And that's where they have seen the deliveries happening 5x faster. And this has obviously resulted in a lot of cost reduction, which they have quantified. So these were just a couple of examples I alluded to. There are a lot more in terms of how this is really happening, and we'd love to share some of these stories along with how some of these agents are working. But what I'd like to just end this session about talking about what we really need to shape the future of CX is an AI that is built for enterprise, which is responsible, safe, and purpose-built to each enterprise need. It cannot be a generic solution with so much clutter in the market and everyone is coming and providing an AI solution. It has to be something which not only shows you the transformative vision, but also helps you deliver on ROI in terms of leveraging that platform. And final, the most important one for at least the people who are there, who have chosen to attend the track on customer experience, being more on the marketing side, you want something which is a lot more marketer friendly, which has a UI which can drag and drop, and you can create agents, you can create those workflows. You don't have to rely on your developer or tech teams to do all of those. So that really is the essence I want to leave all of you guys with today.